What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Dynasty Dumbies, your home for the latest and greatest in college football news and action. We're your hosts, Tony and Hunter, and we're going to jump right into some weekly storylines before we go ahead and preview this upcoming week.
Thanks for that intro, Tony. Kicking things off. Another coach firing, not a head coach this time, but Tony Sunseri is out as UCLA's offensive coordinator. This was his first year as an offensive coordinator and got the short end of the stick being tied to Deshaun Foster, who was fired just a couple weeks ago. Tony Sunseri, that is, was the Indiana quarterback from last year and followed Curt Cignetti from JMU to Indiana. He coached the last 3 years, Todd Centeio, Jordan McLeod, and Cordis Rourke, and all three of those guys had incredible seasons, but it just did not seem to click with Nico at UCLA.
Just didn't look like it was working out there. I mean, UCLA as a whole has just been horrible, so them cleaning house isn't that much of a surprise, but I do expect him to probably land somewhere else and probably turn out some success. So don't be surprised, if he ends up, back as a quarterbacks coach, or maybe even can land another OC job somewhere else. But moving on to another possible firing that we're both willing to bet some money on here is if Florida falls to 1-4 this week against a pretty good Texas team, don't be surprised if Billy Napier finally gets the door and just is gone. Having a below 500 record as a whole as a coach, and then just being 1-4 in the season, not stuff you want to see from Florida. They used to be such a great program, but something that wouldn't be shocked to see, and I'd almost be willing to bet some money on it.
I guarantee if Billy Napier falls to 1-4, he's getting fired. He will be fired if they lose to Texas, which I think is likely. So I think his time's come to an end here, and he'll be the fifth head coach fired. And with all these head coaches being fired, it only shines a brighter light on the importance of today's athletic budgets with how the landscape looks with NIL. This week, Virginia Tech's Board of Advisors approved a $229 million insertion into the Virginia Tech athletic budget, which is going to turn Tech from the 14th highest athletic budget in the ACC to one of the top 5, I believe, through the end of the decade and on. It's showcasing how it's not just important for NIL and players, but for facilities and avoiding declining revenues when you have so many non-revenue sports.
Yeah, Virginia Tech could very much turn into a premier landing spot with this deal going through. I mean, going from, non-desirable sort of thing where it didn't seem like there was a lot of investment there. It seemed like now it's kind of turning the tide and they're really going for it. I think that immediately makes them, one of the more desirable spots for any of these head coaches. And possibly bringing some back. Mr. Ed Orgeron possibly hinting that he wants to come back. So you never know. You can't write it off. I mean, he's got the prestige to be able to go to a place like Tech and possibly get them back in the forefront of the ACC and the nations as well.
Ed Orgeron coming back would just be awesome. Go Hokies, something like that. Go Gators.
Something.
But there was surprisingly a lot of debate about how Virginia Tech may not have been a desirable spot on social media and in general. And personally, I always thought that was crazy because when you have a fan base with as much passion as there does, which it kills me to say as a JMU fan, there's always going to be an appetite for it, and if you can win over fans like that, you're going to have success. I thought it was only a matter of time before Tech made a move like this. So, not surprised by this decision by the Board of Advisors.
We'll have to see how it pans out. I mean, I think this offseason is going to be extremely interesting with the amount of movement we're going to get from coaches, and now with a bunch of differences in how NIL is going to work with a bunch of schools getting this injection of money of sort of thing. So I think this offseason is going to be one to watch for sure, and could be one of the craziest ones we've seen so far in this different era of college football we're in. But speaking of more stuff that could change how the landscape of thing goes, the Big Ten is discussing a possible $2 billion with a B private capital deal, which would infuse $2 billion into the conference and the schools.
And importantly, too, it would also extend the 10-year league's grant of rights, which is essentially what schools do. They give their media rights to their conference, and if they extend it till 2046, like they're talking about, it would ensure a greater conference stability. It's a pretty crazy thing to look at, a $2 billion private capital deal into a conference where this private capital investment firm, whatever it may be, would be generating revenue based off of how much they put in. Just to quote Pete Thamel, who broke this story this week, was, quote, "The setup being discussed is that this will essentially be the formation of a new commercial entity within the Big Ten that would house all revenue generated, such as media rights, sponsorships, and league revenue streams," end quote. This would be a huge insertion into the Big Ten and would definitely change how college football is looked at moving forward each and every year.
It would, I mean, for me, it would almost make them just like a desirable spot. I mean, you look at these athletes with, what they're already getting paid, and then you add on top of it a $2 billion deal. It could just completely change the landscape and make even the smaller Big Ten teams a little more desirable. If they can cut that bigger check, then it could just make things a little bit better. So we'll have to see how this pans out. I mean, like we said, it's only being discussed. There's nothing concrete with it yet. It's, neither confirmed nor denied. So we'll have to see how it pans out. It's probably going to be one of those things that could be talked about now and not confirmed until a couple years from now, sort of thing. So it is a lot of money to play with, so we'll have to see how it ends up turning out.
Definitely going to change the landscape of college football, one that's already changing year over year. And other things that are changing each week in and out are the Heisman hopefuls, with these odds being brought to you by MGM. No, not sponsored. So some shifts with the Heisman odds this week, Tony. A new favorite, Dante Moore, Oregon's quarterback, gets a huge boost from that road win against Penn State. New favorite at plus 750, while last week's favorite, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, falls to plus 1300. He was the favorite. They get past Iowa, and he takes a tumble down to what is now the fifth best odds. But talk to me about what you saw from Dante Moore to really make him jump this high up.
I think really what's just, giving him these boosted odds is just the performances that the team is doing as a whole. When you go out there and you look better as a team, it makes your individuals really stand out. And I mean, he's just playing solid football right now. I mean, he, was a very highly touted transfer at one point last season when he sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a year. He had offers from plenty of other places to go and play, but he chose to go to Oregon, who he originally was committed to, but then decommitted, ended up going to a different school coming out of high school, and kept that connection, which is important nowadays with the transfer portal. And he sat behind Dylan Gabriel, who had an outstanding season last year, and learned from it, and now it's showing where he has taken Oregon and just taken them, and they don't look like they have lost a step, and they're just kind of killing it right now. They get that massive road win where he just goes and plays, I don't want to say lights out, but he plays a solid game from start to finish, doesn't make any key mistakes, is solid with the ball, making the throws where he needs to. And yeah, I think it's just showing that, they're really going for someone who's performing well as a team, but individually he's not putting up, ridiculous video game numbers, but he's still doing enough to where he's getting the recognition that he deserves.
Definitely is. He's playing great. And another transfer quarterback that is at the top here, Carson Beck, been hanging out in the top 5 for quite a while now at plus 900. He did rise a little bit after a week off, and he's going to get a good chance against Florida State this week, a game we'll talk about here shortly. Then he's followed up with Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, plus 1,000. The only non-quarterback in this ranking. However, it does surprise me to see him this high. he's by no means having a slouch of a season. I will say earlier I was really shocked he was this high. I'm still a little surprised at third best odds, but
Yeah.
he's really starting to turn in a nice season here. And I do enjoy seeing non-quarterbacks in this mix. It's obviously a quarterback-driven sport now, and that's the world we live in, but nice to see other positions get their recognition.
Yeah, it's always fun to see your skill positions get thrown in there because, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's almost hard for a receiver to win it now because of the quarterback play. So usually, if Jeremiah Smith's going to have a stellar season, it's because Julian Saint's throwing him the ball realistically. So it's really hard to have one skill position in there without the quarterback. I mean, if Dante Moore had a star receiver like Jeremiah Smith, I guarantee you would see him in there with him. So it's just one of those things where it's hard to have one and not the other, especially at the skill position. But a couple other players we want to note here. One of our favorite quarterbacks who's just hilarious as a guy, and he's just a great quarterback as well. Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt. He's sitting at plus 1,500, and also sitting at plus 1,500 is the man himself, Trinidad Chimbliss, who has been playing lights out ever since he's gotten that starting spot. So those are two names.
He's turning into one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah, the way he's just taken over Ole Miss and taken over the sport right now, he is must-see TV. I mean, Ole Miss is must-see TV right now. They are just absolutely killing it. All things are clicking, and it's more fun when things are. So it's you definitely got to keep an eye out for him because I think if they keep churning out these results and he keeps playing like he has, because he can do it both through the air and on the ground. I very much saw it when he just dismantled Tulane's defense a couple of weeks ago. So he's definitely someone you got to watch out for because he's definitely your dual threat that can do both ways.
He has been exciting to watch, just like Ole Miss has been for the last couple of weeks. And it's exciting to see someone come and take the field by storm the way he has.
Yeah.
Moving on here, though, to just a little rankings reminder before we jump into the game preview. As always, if you want to see our full breakdown of the rankings, go check our video from earlier this week. That video was truly more of a rankings video where we really broke down the reasoning and rationale behind our decisions.
Yeah.
So go check it out. Great video. Then, for now, let's just get a little brief overview of where we stand before we jump into these slates.
Yeah, so, with our rankings, like always, we're always going to hammer down on this criteria just so it's drilled in your head. One day there's going to be a quiz, so pay attention. For our criteria, we go head-to-head is a key factor here. Results on the field matter the most, weekly results where we do not consider hypotheticals at all. We don't care about what-ifs and playing on neutral fields and whatnot. Overall team vibe for a lot of these teams, if we rock with them and they rock with us. And then, of course, the way our group vote is decided is AP style, where 5 people send in their own top 25, and we point it out from there.
Always important to go over those rankings. If you really want to hear us talk through them, definitely check out the episode from earlier this week. Taking a quick look at mine, though, Miami stays at number 1 despite the off week. I really debated putting Oregon up there, which it was a very hot topic this week of 3 people voted for Miami, 2 for Oregon, so it was a really tight race. I have Ole Miss jumping way up. Like we just talked about, they have looked maybe like the most exciting team, maybe the best team the last couple weeks, so they take a huge jump up here. I have Vanderbilt cracking my top 10. And a team that I know that you aren't ranking either, Tony, is Louisville. I have them top 10. I know they're not ranked by the AP, but I've had them ranked all year. Got to know a little bit why you might not have them ranked.
It's almost tough, honestly. I have thought about it. Trust me, I have. I know they're a great team, and I know they've done quite a bit so far, but I think this upcoming week, which we'll go over, is definitely going to be a telltale if they get in for me. I would definitely say they're part of that, probably like first 5 out right now.
If they lose and get a good lesson, do they get in too?
I mean, you never know. You got to have some quality lessons. We love our quality lessons. So they're definitely a team that I have kept an eye on, and I've been waiting for that, like, real big, like jump out. Okay, they've caught my attention, and this is their week to do it. So, if they can continue to roll sooner rather than later, I could see them in there. But if they start to falter up a little bit or, don't really stand out, it's going to be really hard for me to just find room for them. Because right now it's also really tough to find 25. I mean,
it's a challenging one.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
definitely hard. I mean, I know, like for you, you've had them ranked basically all year, so it's a little easier for you because they haven't really had a reason to drop out for you. But for me, I haven't found that reason yet to put them in.
Definitely understand where you're coming from. Still think you're crazy not to have them ranked. But something that you aren't crazy about is UVA, FSU, Bama, and Georgia being right in a row. That's something we both have, and I know we both agree on that.
Yeah.
It's essentially the pyramid of hierarchy here with these teams, all one loss with all losses in a row against each other, UVA, FSU, Bama, Georgia. So we have them off by one ranking, but definitely something we agree on, at least from one standpoint.
For sure. I mean, it's pretty easy to tell. I mean, like we've said in our criteria with the head-to-head, UVA beat FSU, FSU beat Bama, Bama beat Georgia, and then I went one further and did Georgia beat Tennessee because I've had Tennessee ranked for a little while now. So that's just the simple part of it. I do want to, quick reminder on mine for my one slot that I have. I was one of the two that moved Oregon up to one. I explained it further in our ranking show this past week, but I gave them that little bump purely because of the road win in my aspect, and I value road wins a little bit more, especially when they're conference ones in super tough environments like Penn State.
I think it's a great reason. If you, like we said, if you want to see a little bit more about our rankings, go and check it out. You can find out why I have 7 new teams in my top 25. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff here, but it just goes to show, and you'll see right here with our group rankings where things change. Things are always ever changing. We only had one team stay put, and that was Miami, but it was very close, like you had mentioned. So I mean, things are always changing. With our biggest jump being Ole Miss jumping all the way up to top 5, Georgia and LSU dropping 14 spots. And the big part in ours that caused some controversy within the group is where people had put Bama, and they ended up 13 in our collective rankings over FSU. So that'll be something to watch for in these coming weeks.
Definitely some great insight. As you can see, we still have Penn State, LSU, those teams ranked. You can see why I might not have ranked those teams, though, in last week's video. It's a very interesting look at our group mindset with A&M and Texas Tech cracking the top 10, Vandy still being top 10, Mizzou, BYU, USF, and Memphis right in the mix. It's a very interesting topic. Check it out more, but as you can see, it's a little bit different than the AP poll. But as we go through these games, if you hear us mentioning the ranking, that's our rankings. We don't do these rankings for nothing. If we're going to do them, that's the rankings during the show. So
Yep.
Just a little FYI.
It's our podcast, our rules. So
Yep.
we're going to go by our rankings because we do not, agree with the AP majority of the time. So we're gonna when we talk about these teams, we'll talk about their rankings in correlation to ours because that just makes the most sense. So we're gonna jump right into previewing some of these games for this weekend. Starting off, where Michigan is welcoming Wisconsin to the Big House in a big Big Ten matchup, and then the next one here we got, can Bill Belichick get his first P4 win against none other than Dabo Swinney and Clemson, which has the potential to be one of the funniest games because
What a meme game.
Clemson, it's a meme game with Chapel Bill and all the things that are going on in UNC, and then Dabo and his collective crash outs every week, and seeing Clemson go from early national championship favorites to fall to 1-4 would be absolutely insane to watch this weekend.
I don't think. I know I said Billy Napier would be fired at 1-4. I think Dabo's job's safe, unless if he wants to leave, which I don't think he does. He's built his legacy there, but if he loses and goes to 1-4, what a tumble. And then we also got Army and Air Force facing off this week. despite the government shutdown, if you know, you know, it's you got to get those games in, got to get the soldiers moving. Physical activity is always allowed. Then you got Boise State traveling to Notre Dame in what's going to shape up to be a really big game for that Group of 5 playoff race. I know there's not a designated Group of 5 slot, but reality is that only one Group of 5 team is going to make it. Boise State's got a chance to make a statement here.
And next one here we got Mississippi State is getting no chance to collect themselves after their first loss as they head to College Station to play number 6 Texas A&M. That's going to be a tough one for them, but I feel like it'll be a good game.
It's definitely going to be a good one. Mississippi State's just not going to get a breather after that loss last week and against Ole Miss. So going to be interesting. Then we're going to have Duke traveling to the West Coast for a battle against Cal. Should be a good ACC matchup. We'll see if Cal does have a chance to be a good game, good team. And then some bounce back games. Looking to bounce back, obviously Penn State as it heads to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. Should be an easy one to put in the bag for Penn State, in my opinion. UCLA, as we talked about, has been reeling and is still looking for their first win, period.
It's not looking good for UCLA. I know I saw an account on Twitter, and they always post like team schedules and say which team is going to get, or where's their first loss. And they posted one for UCLA and said, where are they going to get their first win? Couldn't really point out a game for you. So it's not looking good for them. But, you never know in college football, especially with, teams coming to you. And, maybe this shakeup that they're having can, give them a spark for something. But I don't see it happening against Penn State. So, but another bounce back here we have is TCU is looking to beat Colorado and Coach Prime. And as they, lost a tough one last week. And then Georgia is facing Kentucky at home.
Both of those, I think, should be bounce-back games for both teams. I think TCU is a good team. They'll get back in the rankings. And Arizona State is going to try to welcome Oklahoma State after the thumping they took from Iowa State. Arizona took their first loss of the year last year against Iowa State. So I think they'll bounce back. Oklahoma State, obviously, not in the best of shapes with Van Gundy, not Van Gundy. I've been watching too much NBA stuff with Al Horford leaving with the Celtics, but Mike Gundy with him leaving or being fired. So we'll see. And then, as always, got to touch on our teams. JMU is going to head to Georgia State. My boys really need to stay focused. They have a statistical top 12 FBS defense, but need to hone in on that passing game a little bit more. They're running the rock amazing, but got to lock in on the offensive passing game.
You always want to see them, keep going because the G5 is really interesting this year with how, some of these teams are turning out. And if JMU can win out and keep going, they got a real shot there. So you got to keep an eye on them. And then, of course, my Green Wave got the bye week. They are sitting at home, taking a break before they have a Thursday night matchup against ECU and a conference game, which I think will actually be a very interesting game to see next week, but we'll have to go in deeper into that next week. But moving on into our must-watch games of the week here, where we think these are the ones you want to sit down and watch. We have number 8 Iowa State traveling to Cincinnati at 3:30.
It's going to be a big stressor for Big 12 fans. If an Iowa State loss happens, it's going to hurt their two bid chances. We might have them at 8, but the AP poll has them at 14. Texas Tech, the next highest team, at 11. So it's going to be a big stressor for the Big 12 because an Iowa State loss here really, really crushes their chances. Obviously, the AP poll is not the poll. I hope that the committee has more similar rankings to us, but I don't trust them as much as I don't trust them as nearly as much as I can trust us. So just going to have to see what happens. It's going to be a dangerous game, though. Cincy is looking to get a solid win. Their only loss this year is to Nebraska, which is respectable in my opinion, but it's going to be a tight one. I do think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, and just to quickly note on that, their only loss is that it was supposed to be a home game for Cincinnati, but they put it where Patrick Mahomes Jr. got to see his idol Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it was absurd to me that they schedule that as a home game for Cincinnati, and then they go and they throw it at Arrowhead. So just didn't make much sense. That stadium was full of Nebraska fans, and but it is what it is. It's that's why we love to keep games on campuses. It's much more entertaining that way, and you get an actual home game as opposed to a chance for a bunch of away fans to take over. But I think this will be a good one, and I agree with you what you said, where if Iowa State goes and loses this could completely kill the two-bid chance for the Big 12, possibly even kill a bid in general, because we already know that they don't like the Big 12 anyway. So it could completely destroy, and you could see maybe 2G5 sneak in there with how the Americans playing, and then possibly the Sun Belt sneaking in. So you never know these days, and the Big 12, they have to win as much as they can, especially in their conference games, because one loss will completely throw them out of the mix. But some key players to watch for. One quick note here, Iowa State is down to its third string kicker, and both starting corners will be out, so it's going to be a big hit for them on the defensive side of the ball. That you're gonna, with being Big 12, you got to have some solid defense because they love their high scoring games.
Most definitely, I've seen it for a long time. Cornerbacks being out's never good. They dealt with the injury bug last year, so it sucks to see it continue into this year. But I want to keep an eye out for their quarterback, Rocco Beck. He has been playing really well, really playing under the radar, great football. He's 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 more touchdowns on the ground, including 3 last week in their win versus Arizona. He is the key for them. He's been playing great. I think if he can continue to play at this high of a level, that Iowa State is going to make some noise down the stretch.
For sure. I think he's very important to that team, and he needs to be clicking for them to have any sort of chance here. So we'll have to keep an eye out for him, and then we'll also have to keep an eye out for the Cincinnati quarterback, Brendan Sosby. He has thrown for 1,043 yards, 10 touchdowns, and only 1 interception, while also adding 4 on the ground. So if they can unlock his dual threat ability, keep an eye out for that to possibly, cause some havoc for that Iowa State defense. And, seeing that they're already down 2 of their starting corners, put some more stress on them by having to keep their eyes out on the receivers while also having to try and keep their eyes on the quarterback if he's scrambling out of the pocket and booking it. So after all this, who you got in this one?
I think Iowa State's going to get the job done. I think there's just outside noise that they don't even listening to. They just got to keep winning. I think they have a really good team. It really came together last week for them against Arizona. I think they're going to keep their winning ways here and get a little bit more respect.
I'm going to have to agree with you here. I think they get it done on the road. They looked really good last week, and I think it just continues into this week. They just kind of ride the momentum and go. I don't think it's going to get them as much respect as they deserve, but I think it's definitely going to be like, okay, maybe we should – keep an eye on them and stuff. But I think they go in there, they get the job done. I don't want to say pretty handedly, but I would say they'd probably pull it out by maybe 10 or so.
I think so, too. I think it's going to be in the range of about 35-24, 35-21, somewhere in there. I think it'll be a good game, but Iowa State's the better team.
For sure. But moving on to our next one here. We're going to have Washington is traveling to number 24 Maryland Saturday at 3:30. This is a chance for Maryland to move to 5-0 for the 3rd time this century. And Maryland has not been ranked since 2019. To me, Maryland is definitely a team you got to keep an eye on. They have a pretty favorable schedule moving forward. So they could definitely be a sneaky team to, put themselves in that mix for a conference championship game come to the end of the season. I think this is their chance to, again, show we can do it. I think Washington was a sneaky good team, albeit, they did lose to Ohio State, but it wasn't, a massive blowout by any sort of means. But they definitely thought I thought they would have looked a little better, but again, they didn't. It is what it is. But Maryland has looked really good this season, so it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on for this week.
They have been playing great football, and that really starts with their freshman quarterback, Malik Washington. He's been tearing it up as a true freshman. He has just under 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 more on the ground. He has looked great. I think this has an opportunity to be a tipping point for both teams where Washington's a good team. The one loss to Ohio State, like you mentioned, Tony. Maryland looking to move to 5-0, an inch closer to bowl eligibility. Whoever comes out of this game, I think, is going to finish the season stronger, where the loser is going to get a little deflated.
I could definitely see that. These somewhat early conference losses can just totally derail your season and all momentum you have. And the way that Maryland is moving right now, it's like you put one thing in their way and one thing goes wrong, you could see the whole thing derailing. I mean, having it helps that their quarterback, a true freshman quarterback, is coming in and just absolutely playing lights out. So if one thing goes wrong with him and someone figures it out, their whole season could get derailed, or he finds a way around it and he keeps going. You never know, but he's someone that I will always say, as much as I hate to say it, you got to watch out for come off season. With the portal, I could see a team definitely swoop in and throwing some cash his way. I mean, look what happened to Darian Mensa with Tulane. He immediately goes to a bigger conference. I mean, the Big Ten is a great conference, but he could end up going to either a bigger team in that conference or just a whole new conference in general. But someone else to keep an eye on for as well. Washington running back Jonah Coleman, top 20 in rushing yards, but only touched the ball 16 total times last week. They're definitely going to need him to get going to have any sort of chance on the ground there. So keep an eye out for him to have I would say sort of less a bounce back game where they feed him the rock, because they know he's pretty important for them and the offensive aspect of it.
He's been looking really great this season, but definitely agree they have to get him going if they want to continue to have success. I think he just needs to touch the ball at least 20 times a game, in my opinion. But after all of that, Tony, who are you rocking with?
I think I'm going to have to go stick to my DMV roots and go with Maryland. It just seems like they're collectively playing really good football right now, and I could just see they're just going to keep riding it while they can. And, we'll have to see come later in the season. I believe they play Indiana is really only their big test. So I think they keep the momentum going this week.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think after losing last week at home and having to fly across country, it's going to be a tough game for Washington. Maryland is a great team. I think they're going to get the job done. Do think it's got a chance to get close, but Maryland's just got to play within their means. Don't get too cocky and just play the football they've been playing all year.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, that cross-country travel is just horrid for any team. It doesn't matter who you are. It's not fun to go to the opposite side of the country and be on totally different time zone, totally different schedule, have to try and get used to it. So I think it's definitely going to affect them more than people will realize. So moving on here, we're going to go into another pretty big one here that we had talked about earlier. Virginia, number 16 Virginia, is traveling to number 21 Louisville Saturday at 3:30.
This is going to be a huge game for the ACC. I know Louisville is not ranked within the AP poll, but it's going to be a huge game as Virginia now is, and they'll probably want Virginia to keep winning, which means getting a solid win on the road versus Louisville. Louisville obviously is ranked by us. It's a top 25 matchup. I think that Louisville is massively underrated. I've mentioned it before. However, they are the betting favorite for this game. That home field advantage coming through.
Yeah, home field I think is going to change a lot. I mean, UVA, they won their game last week at home, so that helps massively. I think if that game's played at Florida State, it probably goes down a little differently because Florida State does have a really good environment, especially now that they're back to winning ways and they're a much better team. So, but nonetheless, that's not what happened. Can't go over these hypotheticals. We don't like them. I do agree with you in the sense that I think that home field is going to play huge in favor of Louisville with the team that they've got this year and how massively underrated they are in the eyes of the AP and whatnot. I think it's going to come. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, they're right there. They're close. I just need that jump out win, and this is their chance to get that jump out win for me. So I'll definitely keep my eye out on this one. The big thing here is, like we talked about with West Virginia when they had beaten Pitt, is can UVA settle down after the really high come up that they had after upsetting Florida State?
Never easy to ride a high like that after getting such a big win, going on the road. Definitely going to have to settle down. This is definitely going to be a great game. Some players to watch: UVA's quarterback Chandler Morris, 4 rushing touchdowns this season, 3 last week in that upset, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, has played really well as a transfer, has looked great.
Yeah, he's definitely looked great. He looked great last week, and I think he continues that. We'll just have to see if they can really solidify it. But someone to watch out here for Louisville is their running back, Isaac Brown. Came back from an injury last week versus Pitt and struggled just a little bit, but you kind of expect that coming off of an injury. But I think that Louisville has really got to get him going if they want to, really make this game much, much harder for UVA than it needs to be.
I agree. I think that a key to this game is going to be Louisville's pressure as well on Chandler Morris. They have the highest pressure rate in the NCAA right now, getting up there at higher than 40% a clip. Getting after the quarterback changes the game. I think that's going to be a huge difference maker. But Tony, who you got?
I think this is where Louisville earns my respect. I think they get it done at home. They beat and what is technically an upset in our books with the rankings. So I could see this happening for me unranked. So it would be an upset in my books, and I think they get it done at home.
I like how you're finally showing some respect to Louisville. It is about time. Top 10 for me. That being said, I think the Cavaliers are going to get it done this week. I think they're going to ride that high well, ride that emotion, and get the job done traveling on the road. Going to be a huge game for the ACC. Huge momentum win for UVA if they can get it. Pains me to say as a JMU fan, but I think they're going to get the job done, be able to get another win coming off this high.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that you say that coming from a JMU fan, where you need Louisville to win. You guys need Louisville to win as much as you can. It makes your quality loss turn into a big quality lesson. So
hey,
I'm sure
I hope Louisville wins.
You probably want to see Louisville win because it'll help you guys.
I do want to see Louisville win, but gotta go with what the old gut's saying.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So we'll have to. It's going to be a good one to watch. We'll have to see how that goes. But moving on to our next one here, we got number 7 Texas Tech traveling to number 25 Houston. Saturday is a primetime game.
Gonna be a Big 12 shootout. I think it's gonna be a classic Big 12 matchup. I think it's a sleeper game of the week. It's gonna be battle of the unbeatens in the Big 12. 7 Texas Tech, 25 Houston. Going to be an awesome one. It's really going to be for that jostling position at the top of the Big 12. Big 12's in a similar position as the ACC, where Texas Tech is ranked 11th in the AP poll. If they lose to an unranked Houston, according to those voters, it's going to be a huge loss for the Big 12, where they're going to drop heavy. Probably will see Houston jump up into the rankings, but there's no way that they're going to put them inside the top 12 like Texas Tech was. And then you're going to have no Big 12 teams essentially within the top 15 potentially. So very interesting game. It sucks that we got to look at games in this respect of, are they going to value conference wins and losses?
It's extremely hard with, especially how disrespected the Big 12 is now in the eyes of the AP and the committee we saw last year. So it sucks to be able to see this as if it can't be a good win for Houston, it's going to turn into a bad loss for Texas Tech and could completely destroy how they go. But we'll have to wait and see. I think, like you said, this is going to turn into your classic Big 12 shootout sort of thing. I mean, Texas Tech still has one of the most electric offenses in the nation, and I think it gets going again. We'll have to see if Houston can try and cool it off some and see if they can keep any of their momentum going. But after all this, who do you think's got this? You're muted.
That's embarrassing. I think Texas Tech is going to get this one done. Houston has looked the part this year, but I just think that they're in a little bit different of a league than Texas Tech. They're going to get a rude awakening.
I'm going to have to agree with you here. I think Texas Tech goes in there and they just blow the brakes off. I'm not saying, Houston is a good team. I have them ranked, but I think that Texas Tech, like you said, is just in a different tier, and they're just going to go in there, completely take care of business, and just move on to the next one.
Definitely going to be an interesting one to watch, but I'm glad that we're on the same page here. Another game that has a chance to see if someone's the real deal or not is number 10 Vanderbilt heading to number 13 Alabama Saturday 3:30. College Game Day is going to visit Vandy's first appearance since 2008 when they hosted Auburn. Super interesting matchup. Obviously, rankings a little bit different for the AP, but Vanderbilt top 10 for the dummies over here. Tony, what you got for us?
Yeah, this is going to be a great one. I mean, Bama's going to look at it and go, we got to win this one purely because of what happened last year. So it's going to be, I think, just highly entertaining from start to finish. At least I hope so. I don't want it to turn into one of those where we have a top 25 matchup. And I know the AP does as well, but a little bit different in their numbers wise. But I don't want it to turn into one of those ones where it's like, it sucks, it's boring. Game Day goes there to hype it all up, and then it just all comes crashing down. I'm hoping it turns into just a classic game, an all-time great. I think it will be with the way both teams are playing right now. I think Bama can find a way to continue to look like what they did in that first half at least against Georgia. But it's going to come down to quarterback play, I believe. I mean, you got two hot quarterbacks right now with Diego Pavia and then Ty Simpson, where they're playing lights out right now at this moment. So it's going to come down to those two, I think.
Definitely agree with you on this. I think the quarterback duel is really where it's going to come down. Obviously, Pavia is a little bit more of a dual threat that could cause problems for Bama, while Ty Simpson, I think he needs to just play calm and composed. He does not need to be the hero of this game. On paper, Bama is the better team, but we all know those hypotheticals don't matter, even in this SEC matchup. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one shapes out. I want to know if Vandy can overcome the emotions of this big-time game with College Game Day. They haven't had a lot of games in this kind of tier, so interesting to see how they handle it. That being said, Tony, do you think they can handle it, or do you think Alabama's going to end up pulling this one off?
I don't know. It's definitely probably the hardest one to pick, I think. But I think I'm going to go with Vanderbilt.
I like it.
The person in me, the hater of Alabama in me, just wants to see Vanderbilt pull it off again. After last year's electric game, and now with them being two top 25 teams and with a lot on the line, both undefeated, or not both undefeated, my bad, Vandy being undefeated, and Alabama having a massive, bounce back and coming off of a great win. It's going to be a challenge, being in Tuscaloosa, but it's not something that I think Vandy's not built for at this moment. So I think they can get it done. It's going to be a close one for sure. I could see Vandy by a walk-off field goal.
I love the hater in you. Got to respect picking the upset. No shame about it. However, I think Bama is going to get it done this week, as much as it pains me to say. I think that there isn't a world yet that I live in where Bama loses to Vandy 2 years in a row. I just can't see it happening. I really hope Vanderbilt wins, but I do think Bama's going to just kind of lean on them like they did Georgia in that first half, and it's going to be too much. I think Vanderbilt's going to put up a great effort. but I think Bama's going to win by at least 2 scores, unfortunately.
I mean, I could see that absolutely happening, and it's just the hater in me. I can't stand Alabama. I haven't
I
liked
love
them.
it.
I never have, never will sort of thing. But I could 100% see it turning into Vandy's just picked apart, and Bama just rides high and they keep going. But moving on to what I think is the game of the week. Is number 1 Miami going to number 18 Florida State in a primetime game on Saturday. This is one of those ones that game day have been here. I mean, I think it absolutely had the chance to, but FSU losing, I think, just completely threw it out the window. And Miami already getting a game probably hurt it as well, but I think the nail in the coffin was definitely FSU losing. If they had won, then I think it almost would have been a sure lock that they would have been there.
Top 10 matchup would have had to.
Yeah, top 10 matchup, got to be there. 2 great teams that looked like they're quote-unquote back. So, back to their former selves, I think. But nonetheless, they're not there. It's still going to be a fantastic game. Florida State looking to bounce back. Can they, mitigate the mistakes that they had in that UVA game? Can they bounce back defensively? But it's going to be really hard on that defensive side, seeing as now they're going against a surging Miami offense with the way that Carson Beck has been playing. And can Miami's defense contain FSU's versatile attack? I think so. I think they have one of the better players in the country in Ruben Bain. That dude is a monster.
Yeah.
If he gets his hands on Castellanos, that dude could get murdered.
They definitely do have a great front seven at Miami. They have a ton of talent. I think this is going to be a game where NFL scouts, they're going to be dreaming of matchups like this, seeing all this talent in front of them. It's another big game. We talked about it earlier for the ACC in the AP poll and even the Dynasty Dummy polls for the rankings. Honestly, an FSU win really capsizes the ACC's opportunity as a 2-bid league as well. Miami would then drop out of top 10. There, you'd have Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Miami probably all sitting around that 13 mark. But it's going to be hard for 2 of them to get back into the top 10. You know that they already are doing that with the Big 12. It's only a matter of time with the ACC. It really may ensure a 2-loss ACC champion by the end of the year, which means I think it's a 1-bid ACC. I think it shows how deep the ACC honestly is.
I believe the ACC is one of the deeper ones this year. I mean, last week proved it with UVA. I mean, we know Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida State. I mean, maybe we thought Clemson, but guess not. They're at the bottom feeders now. But yeah, I think the ACC this year very much has had a chance to be a 2-bid. But it's looking, with the way some of these results are falling, it's looking like it's going away a little bit. I mean, like you said, an FSU win could throw a wrench in everybody's rankings. The AP poll, our rankings, and just about anything that does it. So it's going to be one of those ones where it's going to be must-see TV. You got to sit down and watch it because, even if it's a blowout, that's still going to drastically change a lot of things. If it's a super close game, that's going to change a lot of things. The outcome of the game could very much determine, can Miami jump back up to number 1 in my book? Probably. If they go out there and they win on the road, I could probably see them going back to number 1 in my book. Because, like I said, road wins matter to me, and this would be a road win for them. But I think it's another one of those games going to come down to quarterback play with Carson Beck and Tommy Castellanos. If Carson Beck can get back to the way he was playing the super early in the season, where he just was back into his form after kind of a slower game in their last one before the bye. But again, also coming off of a bye is gonna, I think, help them a little more than hurt them. FSU is going to be looking for that massive bounce back after a super disappointing loss that they probably think they should have won as well.
I wish they had won it as a UVA hater. I wish this was a top 10 matchup. It would be better for the rankings and my own personal agenda and how I want this season to play out. Obviously, that's never the way it goes. That being said, Tony, who do you like in this one?
I think it's going to be a good one, but I think I'm going to have to go with the U. I believe they are just a tier above Florida State right now. I think that loss is going to seethe a little more than they want it to. And I almost want to say it kind of gives Miami a little formula of how to mitigate some of their offensive play and kind of contain them. So I think Miami gets it done. I still think it'll be a close game. I could see it being one possession majority of the game, and then maybe, last couple minutes when Florida State gets a little desperate, Miami could get a score to pull away. But definitely going to be a close one, but I think I'm going to go with the U here.
Can never go wrong with the U. I'm really torn on this one. I can see it going both ways. I want to say Miami, but my gut is telling me Florida State's just going to make this season even more chaotic because that's just the nature of the beast. So I'm going to rock with the Seminoles here. More of a maybe let's call it a vision that I've had of chaos in college football. I think they're going to get the job done. I think it's going to be incredibly close, though. I don't think they're going to run away with it. It's going to be one of those games down in Florida State, one of the last few hot games of the year. So interested to see how this one plays out. I think they're just going to find a way to get the job done after that really disappointing loss.
I could see that for sure. I mean, I'm with you in the sense of it's gut-wrenching to pick one or the other, honestly, because I like both teams. It's more fun when Florida teams are good, but I'm with you there where it's going to be a tough one. But I'm going to stick with the U. I think they're a little deeper on both sides of the ball, but it's going to be tough. Another thing I want to keep an eye out on, I think the team that wins this is the team that is also going to win the turnover battle. If, turnovers are always the name of the game. It happens all the time in every single game. One turnover against one of these teams and how their offenses have been going could absolutely change it. It could change it from a one-possession game to a 2 to 3 possession game in the matter of a second. So I'm throw that out there. Whoever wins the turnover battle, I think will end up winning the game.
I think that's right. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Who can cause the most havoc on the defensive side of the ball. But that's all we have for you all today. Let us know what you guys are looking out for this week. What matchups are you excited for? Do you agree with our picks? Do you agree with our rankings? Let us know. Let us know what you want to see more of. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dynasty Dumbies, and follow our personal accounts too if you want at Hunter_Shaw5 and at CronyTony20. Looking forward to seeing you guys after the weekend and diving into our games of the week and seeing how our rankings shape out.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.